She told everyone I was basically her brother. Nothing romantic about me. After 4 years of being her emotional boyfriend, I said, "Great, sis." And weeks later she returned demanding everything she once denied. I, 29 male, working in software sales in Chicago, tried to make sense of a friendship that felt more like a half-relationship I never agreed to. I met Brooke, 27, through mutual friends, and we bonded instantly. I developed feelings early, but every attempt to show them was shut down with lines like, "You're like a brother to me," or, "I don't want to ruin our friendship." I was young, hopeful, and naive enough to think that loyalty might eventually turn into something more. Spoiler alert, it didn't. Instead, I became her emotional boyfriend. I was the one she called at midnight when her dates went bad, the one who listened to hours of overthinking, the one who drove her to the airport so she could see guys who were actually allowed to date her. And all the while, she'd remind me I was like family. I know how it sounds. I was the classic nice guy who thought patience would earn me a place in her heart. But then everything shifted when I met Elena, 26, a graphic designer, confident, direct, warm, and someone who actually chose me without hesitation. When I introduced Elena to my friend group, including Brooke, something changed instantly. Brooke became more invasive, more curious, asking about my relationship, commenting on my behavior, dropping hints that didn't sit right. And then one afternoon, right in front of Elena, she ended a story with, "You always understand because you're basically my brother." That sentence broke something loose in me. If that was what I was to her, then that was exactly how I'd treat her. I started calling her sis. Softly, casually, consistently. "Hey sis, how is work?" "Sis, you should talk to HR about that." "Elena, this is my sister Brooke." Watching her face twist in confusion was fascinating. She had built this dynamic herself, and now it was bothering her. Elena thought it was hilarious and even joined in, treating Brooke with the same warm but distant energy she would give to an actual sibling of mine. The shift hit hardest when Brooke texted me late one night complaining about another guy giving her mixed signals. Normally, I would spend an hour decoding messages and offering emotional comfort. But instead, I replied, "That sounds rough, sis. Maybe talk to one of your girlfriends. I'm not the right person for dating advice anymore." She called me immediately, demanding to know why I was acting weird. But I wasn't being weird. I was simply doing exactly what she had trained me to do. Treat her like family. The moment she realized that brother meant boundaries, not unlimited emotional labor, something inside her snapped. And when Elena suggested hosting a family barbecue and inviting Brooke as my sister, I saw the perfect opportunity to let the dynamic unfold naturally. At the barbecue, the difference between actual family and whatever Brooke thought she was became crystal clear. Elena's real sister showed up in shorts and a tank top, relaxed and comfortable. Brooke arrived as if she were attending a networking event, fully made up and dressed to impress. I treated her just as I treated everyone else, warm but balanced, involved but not invested in one-on-one emotional drama. Whenever she tried to pull me aside for a deep talk, I'd say, "Sis, let's just enjoy family time." Elena matched my energy perfectly, including Brooke in group conversations but not leaning into emotional closeness. By the end of the event, Brooke looked confused, frustrated, and desperate to regain the role she'd always held over me. When she finally asked to talk alone, I gave her the space, still calling her sis, still holding the boundary she'd created. She tried to get me to drop the act, claiming that's not what she meant when she called me her brother. But it was exactly what she said for 4 years. For the first time, she was forced to see that brother meant she didn't get my emotional availability on demand anymore. When I pointed out how one-sided our friendship had been, she had no answers. For the first time in years, I felt relief, clarity, and control over my own heart. Brooke started texting more after that. Not crisis messages, but emotional, "I miss how we used to talk" texts. I responded calmly, politely, as I would with a real sister. For the first time in 4 years, I was sleeping well, living fully, and not waiting for Brooke to decide how she felt about me. And then she showed up at my apartment crying. The night Brooke came over unannounced was the night she finally said the words she had buried for years. Elena and I were having a quiet movie night when Brooke knocked on the door, eyes red, voice shaky. She demanded to talk alone. Elena gave us space, but not before squeezing my hand. A simple act that reminded me what real partnership felt like. Brooke sat on the couch and broke down, saying she couldn't do this anymore. I asked what she meant. She said she couldn't handle the distance or the sibling dynamic. And then she admitted it. She had feelings for me the whole time but was scared to ruin the friendship. 4 years of calling me her brother, 4 years of dating other guys while leaning on me for emotional stability, 4 years of telling me to stay in my place, and now, 3 months into my first healthy relationship, she wanted to rewrite the entire script. I sat across from her, not next to her, and said calmly, "That's a strange thing to say to your brother, sis." It broke her completely. She begged me to stop calling her that, but I didn't, because she had spent 4 years building that identity for me, and now she wanted to tear it down only because it no longer benefited her. She accused Elena of turning me against her, but Elena had only helped me see what genuine care looked like. Mutual, clear, and chosen. When Brooke realized she couldn't undo the dynamic she'd created, she stormed out. Elena came back and asked if I was okay. I told her I felt like I had just freed myself from an emotional contract I never actually agreed to. A few weeks passed in peace, until the situation escalated further. After Elena and I got engaged, a beautiful, simple moment during a hiking trip, Brooke stayed silent. No congratulations, no message, nothing. But then she called Elena directly, claiming I was rushing the engagement to prove something to her. Elena put the call on speaker. Brooke tried to convince her that she knew me better than Elena did, that her 4 years of history meant something more than my relationship. Elena cut straight through the manipulation, pointing out that Brooke had 4 years to build something real and instead used me for emotional support while dating others. Brooke had no real response, just more defensiveness and vague claims of complicated feelings. After that call, Brooke blocked both of us, told mutual friends a distorted story, and removed herself from my life entirely. And honestly, I didn't chase her. I didn't correct anyone. I didn't try to fix anything. Because what was broken was never a friendship. It was a long, unspoken imbalance finally coming to light. Elena and I moved forward with planning our wedding. The guest list was small, intimate, filled with people who actually supported us. When friends asked whether we were inviting Brooke, Elena answered gracefully every time. "We sent an invitation to Hunter's sister, but haven't heard back. We weren't spiteful. We didn't trash her name. We just let reality speak for itself." The more I built my life with Elena, the more I realized I had never actually experienced a healthy romantic dynamic until her. We talked about everything: dreams, plans, worries, hopes. Decision-making was shared. Emotional labor was balanced. Support was mutual. Love was given, not extracted. One night, Elena asked if I missed any of what I had with Brooke. I told her the truth. I missed thinking we had something special. But I didn't miss the uncertainty, the emotional confusion, the one-sided effort, or the illusion that one day she might choose me. Now, with the wedding 6 months away, I finally feel like I'm building a life instead of hoping for one. If Brooke ever truly wants to show up as my sister, she's welcome to. But what I learned, painfully, slowly, and honestly, is that being wanted and being chosen are not the same thing. I spent 4 years waiting to be wanted. I'm spending the rest of my life being chosen. As the months passed, life began settling into a calm rhythm that felt almost strange after years of emotional chaos. Every morning started with coffee beside the woman who chose me without hesitation, and every evening ended with quiet conversations that felt like building a home brick by brick. Wedding plans filled the calendar, and each appointment made it even more clear how different my life had become. Instead of carrying someone else's emotional weight, I was finally living a life that moved forward instead of in circles. Whenever thoughts of Brooke appeared, they passed through my mind like echoes from a distant room. Familiar, but no longer powerful. It was strange realizing how much space she used to take up in my heart, and how peacefully she had faded into the background once real love stepped into the frame. One afternoon, while Elena and I were visiting the venue for final measurements, a mutual friend texted me that Brooke had mentioned our engagement at a dinner party. Apparently, she'd told everyone she was deeply hurt that I had thrown away 4 years of connection. The old version of me would have spent hours wondering what I did wrong, trying to fix things, trying to restore a broken balance that only existed because I carried all the weight. But the new version, the one who finally knew what healthy love looked like, didn't feel pulled toward that old pattern. Instead, I looked at the mountains behind the venue, the sun painting gold across the trees, and realized I had outgrown the entire dynamic. I felt no anger, no bitterness, no desire to defend myself. Only gratitude that I was finally free from a relationship that had survived only because I let it drain me for years. Later that night, Elena and I talked about the guest list again. She asked if I wanted to send Brooke another invitation, just to cover all bases and avoid any future claims that she had been excluded. I thought about it for a long moment, then shook my head. I told Elena that family didn't need repeated invitations to show up. Family showed up because they wanted to, not because they needed more chances. Brooke had already made her choice when she blocked us on everything. She chose silence over healing, distance over clarity, and pride over connection. And while I would always wish her well in the quiet corners of my heart, I was no longer responsible for steering her through her own feelings. That part of my life was over, and I was finally teaching myself that letting go was not cruelty. It was freedom. As weeks rolled into the final countdown before the wedding, I noticed how much lighter I felt. Decisions came easily. Conversations felt honest. Moments felt full instead of half-empty. Elena's joy was contagious, and her steady love made everything feel possible. She was the first person I ever built a future with instead of merely hoping for one. For years, I had believed that loving someone meant waiting for them to realize my worth. Now I knew better. Love was not a test of patience, but a partnership built on equality and choice. Standing beside Elena, I knew she chose me every single day, and that simple truth made every step toward marriage feel like a natural part of my life's growth. 3 days before the ceremony, I received a message from another mutual friend who said Brooke had announced she would not be attending the wedding for her own emotional well-being. I read the message twice, then put my phone down and continued folding programs for the guests. There was nothing else to feel, nothing else to say. That chapter had closed long before the wedding invitations went out. And surprisingly, instead of pain, all I felt was a quiet sense of removal, like watching a door close behind me while I walked toward a brighter hallway ahead. Elena looked at me when she noticed my expression, and I told her what happened. She smiled softly, kissed my forehead, and said, "Then she made the decision that's best for everyone." And she was right. The wedding was about love that was mutual, not love that lingered in the shallow corners of unspoken feelings. The wedding day arrived with clear skies and a soft breeze that carried the smell of pines across the venue. Friends and family filled the seats, laughing, hugging, celebrating a future built on choice and clarity instead of hesitation and mixed signals. Elena walked toward me in a dress that made the entire world blur at the edges, and in that moment, every doubt, every old wound, every lingering question about Brooke finally vanished from my heart. I was marrying someone who loved out loud instead of in half-truths. Someone who spoke with honesty instead of hidden intentions. Someone who never asked me to dim myself to keep her comfortable. When we exchanged vows, I felt something settle into place inside me. A feeling like coming home after years of wandering through emotional fog. After the ceremony, as we stood together watching the sunset paint the sky in warm colors, Elena slipped her hand into mine and asked if I felt complete closure. I told her the truth, that closure didn't come from Brooke's silence or from our distance. It came from finally choosing myself. It came from understanding that love was not a reward you wait to receive, but a partnership you build with someone who sees you fully. It came from realizing that being important to someone was not the same as being loved by them. And most of all, it came from standing beside her, knowing I was exactly where I was meant to be. Brooke was a chapter, but Elena was the story. And for the first time in 4 years, I was living a life that was truly mine.